Go.
Hello, Matt Morganators. We are back with another video. I've recently basically been getting into a lot of Frisbee recently, like Ultimate Frisbee and Frisbee Golf. So I'm gonna review and rate all the Frisbees I have. So this is gonna be maybe quite the long video, but we're just gonna hope for the best. So hopefully it's even relatively interesting. So, our first disc. This is my current putter. It's the Neutron Watt by MVP, and it's got a 1 speed, a 1 glide, a 0 turn, and a 0 fade. So pretty much, it's your slowest disc that you'll ever have in your basically your I guess your hand. I guess so. Pretty much, what makes it so less glidey is it doesn't have much of any curve on top, as well as I don't know. It just flies really straight, and I like it. And it's limited edition. It's got I think George Washington or something on it, but it's super cool. So that's our first disc. I'd probably rate this a 7 out of 10 for a disc. So now we have a collection. These are my my aviars. So each of them are different. So for instance, they're the same plastic, but they have different stats than our last putter that we just saw. So these have a putt. They have a speed of 2, which means you have to throw it a little bit harder than the first putter we saw. A glide of 3, so that means it'll lift up more when you throw it. A turn of 0, so it won't be turning left or when you're throwing backhand. And then you got a 1 of fade, so that means when it's losing speed, it'll go a little bit to the left slowly. But like I said, this is a great putter. It comes in 2 different plastics. We have the DX plastics is what I originally started with. And it's just cheaper. This is like an $11 Frisbee, and this is like 17 or 18. So there we go. So these are all the aviars. They're great. Big fan. As you can tell, they're a little bit thicker and a little bit more domed. So there we go. Those are the aviars. And so now we're basically into our fast putter region. So we have the Colt, which the Colt is not very good. I don't like this thing at all. It's too fast for a putter. It's a 3 speed. Has a glide of 4, which basically, when you're throwing it, it just lifts up. And so I'm just like, oh, this is a horrible putter. I thought I was gonna like it, but no. But it's got a turn of -1. So that means basically, since it's not 0, it won't fly straight. And so basically, how I'm gonna throw it, I'd have to autocorrect by throwing a little bit at this angle if I want it to go straight, right? So yeah, this is an okay putter. Not great, and I don't really like it, but it's okay. Too fast for me. Our next putter, we have the Invader, Nova Invader. And it's all right. It's a little bit better than our Colt that we just had. It's got a speed of 3, which is still too fast for me for putters. But it has a 2 of glide, so it doesn't lift up as much as the Colt, which is good. So I don't have to adjust for the different, really different speed all that much. It's got a 0 turn and a 1 fade, so it's pretty easy to throw. Let's see, the spin test. It spins pretty well. So. Yeah, as you can tell, compared to the Aviar and the MVP Neutron Watt, it's a little bit more domed, which that's just a feel thing. But it feels nice in the hand, so I'd give this probably, I don't know, a 5 out of 10. And so the Colt, which I forgot to mention, this would be a 2 out of 10. And then the Nova Aviars, these are like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. They're pretty good. So then, now we're on to our different range of discs, which are our basically are our mid-ranges. So basically what a mid-range is, a mid-range like disc, it basically has more of a, like, you have to throw it harder, but it'll go farther. So usually speed is accompanied by distance it can be thrown. So for instance, with our starting one, we have this mystery disc that we found in the gutter. Is it Discraft? It's a Discraft, what even is this? I don't know, some Discraft that we found in the gutter. I'm not a fan of it. It had a big, like, basically like a wart here that I popped when I originally found it in the gutter. Obviously, it used to be someone's, and then it got crossed out, which we didn't even cross that out. It was already crossed out. But it has the original phone number, so if that name is very familiar to you, then yeah. So the stats on this, we have no idea what this is. So basically, it's a mid-range, so I'm guessing it's pretty similar to this next few ones that we're looking at. But when I threw it, it had a bit of a slight, probably like a turn of 2 and a speed of probably 5 or so, maybe 4. So not real hard, you got to throw it, but overall pretty okay disc. So I'd probably say 6 out of 10. All right. Our next disc, we have the Rock, just the Star Rock. So the Star plastic, like it says, same plastic that's in the Colts and some of the Aviators, as well as the as well as the Invader and stuff like that. So yeah. So this one, it has a speed of 4, and then glide of 4, which is good because, like, with a mid-range, you just want to get a little bit more lift, I guess, to it. And so the Rock has a very distinct sort of crest and ridge around here, which is weird to hold in my hand. I don't really like it. This is not really. This is one of my buddy's discs. This is not mine. But it's okay. Not a super big fan, and it likes to cut. It likes to cut really hard to one side. See, it's got a turn of 0, but that doesn't mean it'll fly straight. But the fade is a 3, which how many is it out of
end of it's good.
No, I know what a fade is, but like what's it out of? What are the numbers out of for fade? 5 out of 5. So 5 is the highest fade, and then pretty much 0's the lowest. And so fade basically just means, like I said before, it'll go to the left if you're throwing it backhand. So yeah, the Rockstar, it's pretty okay. Probably like a 5 out of 10. I wouldn't use it in my hand, but pretty okay. Next we have the Mako 3, which comes in a few different prints and a few different colors. We have 3 of them. I don't know why we need this many of them, but we have 3. And they're all pretty much the same. We have, for instance, we have the 5, so it's a 5 speed, which is pretty fast, a 5 glide, which is pretty good, and a 0-0 for the last 2, for this fade and then the turn. So this is one of the straightest discs that is on the market right now. So, like I said, if I were to throw it, it would just go straight ahead. No turn, no nothing. So, I mean, a lot of people like it, but it's not really my thing. So, so it's okay. All of them come in different plastic too. There's a DX plastic, which was basically the same one we saw for one of the Aviators. But like I said, this is probably like a 8 out of 10 disc. This is a great disc. I just don't use it in my hand anymore. So, on to the next one. Now this is my personal favorite. This is the MVP Disc Sports Relay in the Neutron plastic, which is the same plastic as the first putter we saw. It's super cool. We found it in a stream, and the guy's name was Eric, who we found it off of, and so we were like, man, we're not gonna call him because he didn't pick up originally, so we were like, well, I guess it's our disc now. Yeah, so this has been my go-to disc mid-range. It's got a speed of 6, a glide of 5, a turn of -2, which that means it'll pretty much, it's a weird disc. You kind of have to, the way I throw my Frisbees, it works very well for me, and I really like it. It's really beat up, as you can see, very beat up. But overall, a great disc, and this is always in my bag. So I'd say this is about a 9 out of 10. Really great disc. So on to our next disc. We have our Discraft Stalker, which I don't think I've ever used before. Huh? Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. Hold on. Well, we're into drivers now. And so, did we find this at a course? Yeah, we did. And so pretty much, how a driver is mainly for, this would be in the speed of 7, a glide of 5, and a turn of -1, and a fade of 2. So this one's really flippy. And so when I say a disc is flippy, that means, so if you don't have it perfectly flat, it'll just cut into the ground, like completely just smash in the ground, and it's horrible. This disc sucks. No one uses it. Like, it's horrible. The Stalker sucks bad. And so it's not even really a driver, really, because like I'd say a driver's basically start at like an 8 or so, out of like 8 for speed, you know, and then maybe like a 6 or really 5 or 6 for the what do you call it, for the glides. So not a fan. It looks kind of nice when it's shimmering. That's basically all I can give it. But this is the 5-time Paige Pierce world champion. He uses this disc. Never heard of him, so he's probably irrelevant. So let's see this next one. Now we got a river, and oh my gosh, this is by Latitude 64. Yeah, Latitude 64. This is a Swedish-made disc. All the other ones that we've seen this far are American. So this Swedish disc is by a little company, and they have a YouTube channel, Latitude 64. Big fan of them. They make like entry into disc golf and stuff like that. And so yeah, so this river, it's basically one of the straightest and just glidiest discs you can ever have. Like, for real, it's off the scale because a glide's out of 1 through 6 usually, and this has a glide of 7, which you can see if you look at it this way. It's really domed. Like, extraordinarily domed, which increases drag. Well, it basically just increases lift. And I'm a really big fan of this. One of my buddies just got it, and he loves it. And I'd really just, I don't know, I love it. So I'd say probably around like a 8.5 out of 10. It's really good. Great disc. Spin test. Spins not great. So yeah. Next, we are on to my very first distance driver. This is the Valkyrie. This is the Innova Valkyrie. It has a speed of 9, lift of 4, a turn of -2. So that's I like a turn of -2 because a -2, the way I throw it, it throws straight usually. So why don't I love this? Well, it's got a 2 of fade. And so pretty much on top of the normal fade, when you throw it, it just increases the amount of, I guess, backhand like turn you have on it. And it's in really crappy plastic. I had this one for probably, I don't know, 2 weeks or so when I was using it. I got a really big chip out of it, if you can see it. It's quite big. And I never named it, so obviously it's not good enough to be named. So that's my Valkyrie. Not really a fan. It's the different plastics of this are nicer, but it's really rare to find the different plastics. This is the DX plastic, so it's cheaper. And so I think this is like around $11. But yeah, very mid. Not amazing. So now we're on to our next disc of the Dynamic Disc Vandal. This is currently in my hand. And so it's my fastest driver that I use. There's much faster ones out there, but I'm just not strong enough to use the different. Well, I am strong enough. It just I prefer to have more control over my disc than have to throw it as hard as I can and hope for where it goes. So that's why a lower speed, speed of 9, makes the disc more controllable. So the glide of 5 basically means like I said before, it's pretty lofty, not bad. It doesn't take off like the river. The river, for real, when you throw it, it goes zoop, like completely out of frame, out of mind. It's just kind of sometimes uncontrollable, but it's a blast to use, and it's always really nice to look at. So yeah, dynamic disc Vandal. So it's got a turn of -1.5, which is weird. So it's around the -2 like I like. It's got it's got a 2 fade though, so it's kind of very similar to the Valkyrie we just looked at. But since it's dynamic disc and since it's a different profile and a different weight, I think this is 174 grams, it's just more controllable. Because the Valkyrie, I think this is around 160, which is too light for a driver. Anyways, so I'd say I love this one. It's named Erica. Pretty sweet. And out of 10, I'd give it a probably like a 9. It's great. Great disc. It'll go really far. Now we got our next disc. This is a Nova Thunderbird. And man, I hate this thing. Like, for real. It's horrible. It's got a speed of 9, a glide of 5, a turn of 0, which is cool, but when you're throwing a driver, you're throwing it differently compared to a putter. So, for instance, I'll show you my grip. So, when I want a power grip on my Frisbee, I'm going to be wrapping all 4 fingers around the disc. And then my thumb is going to be put right here. So basically, when I have it like this, I can control all the force into the disc pretty much. And so you're not really losing much. But for instance, since it has a turn of 0, and let's say my putter, right? I hold it like this, like an ultimate Frisbee. I get more control out of it, but you can't throw it as far or as hard, or else it'll basically go off course, and you don't want that. So that's why different grips are basically for different Frisbees. And so I'm mainly just a backhand player. There's other players who, for instance, throw it either like this, which is like the forehand, and you would be throwing it like basically a side hand. It's really cool to see a really good player throw a backhand. It's very cool. And so it just looks kind of weird coming out of the hand, but man, do they throw it really far. Just like this. Another grip you can do is one of these. It's called the pizza grip. And I don't know that many people who use it. One of my buddies uses it, maybe a little bit. But it's okay. Anyways, so I guess back to the review, I guess. So this is the Champion Plastic, which is the most expensive from the Innova lineup. Which, this was a $22 Frisbee, which, in my opinion, overpriced for this piece of junk. And so this is my personal Innova, my personal Thunderbird, and I have used it maybe twice, and I don't like it. So, on to our next one. We have the Dynamic Disc Sergeant. So, same brand as my Vandal, this is just a different model, pretty much. And so, it's got a speed of 11, which is too fast for me, pretty much. It's just a bit of a reach for me to consistently do and be accurate with the speed of 11. It's just kind of hard. And so a glide of 4, so pretty much is not super lifty. So it usually, a good use for this would be like if I were to throw it lower on the, like closer to the ground, because like if you throw something close to the ground, there's a thing called ground effect, which basically makes it kind of hover on the surface. It's really cool. So you can do that in like particularly like sandy courses or like really low grass courses. The longer the grass, the less it's likely to do that. So for instance, on hole like 13 of U of R, it's really too long, and so you can't use ground effects. So this disc, not my favorite. I'd say, I mean, it's overstable, so pretty much when you're going to be throwing it, it's mostly going to stay pretty stable. So it's not really going to be flippy, and it's not really going to dive at the end of really anything. But it's got a turn of 0, but a fade of 2.5. So that's a pretty higher fade. What's fade out of 5? 5, yeah. And so since the fade's out of 5, it's just hard really getting the most out of this disc, especially when you're still starting like I am. So maybe later. So I'd say probably like 6 out of 10. So yeah, to our next disc. So funny story about this one. This is my Discraft Vulture, and it's kind of ugly. It's a weird color. It's kind of like a beige. So I guess that's that. And so it's got I'm pretty sure a speed of 13. No way. It's a speed of like, I think it's either 10 or 11. And then a glide of, I think, 5. And then a turn of -3. So it's got a pretty sharp turn. So that's why I just have to overcorrect it by throwing it at like an angle like this or so. So it can go straight still, right? Then it's got a fade of, I don't know. I'm not quite sure with this one, but I don't use it very often. It's sort of very hard for me to control. Like I said, too fast for me, really. It's a nice plastic, though. I got this in a mystery box on just a weird FRISBEE Golf website. Shouldn't have done that. It was pretty much just a waste of my money. But hey, at least I got a fun, ugly disc out of it. So that's fun. But yeah, so out of 10, I would give this probably a 3. On to our last few discs. We have the MVP Crystal, which, now, let me tell you, this is a good disc. What am I doing? What? It's called Crocodix? What? Okay. Anyways, we're not getting into that. So pretty much, this is the catalyst. It's the Anova. It's the MVP catalyst with the neutron plastic, which is pretty good. The same plastic I said in this one, as well as in my pink putter. Big fan. Great. It's pretty loose, so it's pretty floppy disc compared to like an average. Let's say my Valk. It doesn't really move very much. It's very stiff. And then let's say the Star Plastic or the River, it's also pretty flippy. So yeah, so pretty much the catalyst, a speed of 13, which is hard to control most of the time. If you don't have it down, it's very tricky to get going. It's got a speed of 5.5. A glide of 5.5. So pretty much, it's pretty glidey, but not the highest glide disc that we have. And -2. So pretty much, it's pretty much the same as my Neutron, which is the white MVP disc that I just had. It's named Eric, and so yeah, that's pretty sweet. It's got a fade of 2, so pretty standard looking, not super lifty disc. Notice how it's getting sharper basically as we're going on, and out of 10, probably 8.5. I like this disc. So now moving on to our last disc, which is my Anova Shrike. And I looked online a long time ago. This was probably like 2 months ago, and I was like, best distance drivers for beginners, or most sold distance drivers. And this was one of them. And I got it. I got it at Dick's, and I was like, man, is this thing hard to control? And so since it's a speed of 13 and a lift of 6, which is basically the highest it can go, minus the River, because the River's off the scale. It's quite domed. So it's basically just a wing, so it likes taking off a lot. Fade of -2, very common, turn of -2, very common, and then a fade of 2, which, it's okay. I don't like this disc. I don't use it very much because it's a little bit too hard for me right now. But overall, that's pretty much it. So, that's pretty much it with my review. I have there's a few more. There's like 3 or 4 that I didn't review, but I don't know where I put those. So they're around. But there's just another Drivo, another Mako, and I think a what's his putter? Yeah. Huh? Luke's. Oh, okay, and then just another aviar. So we pretty much already covered all the discs that we have. So yeah, thanks for coming along. I know this was probably a little bit of a longer review and a longer sort of video for me, but I appreciate all the, I don't know, just appreciate you coming along with this little adventure. And so like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one, and peace out.